Minnesota. This is Christie Thompson with Christie Legal. I am a divorce and custody mediator and paralegal for Minnesota. And I would like to talk to the ladies today. And because, often ladies do have a few different considerations when divorcing than the gentlemen do. And I'm joined here today by my friend and financial advisor, Cathy Hietala. Cathy, could you just introduce yourself a little quick minute?
Well, hi, ladies of Minnesota. I'm Cathy Hietala. I am a financial advisor as well as the vice president of the Terrio Group here in Minnesota.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And so just to give you guys a little bit of information about divorce, there's like three main areas that you're going to handle when you divorce. And the first, if you have children, the first thing you're going to do is handle that. That's often the most contentious part. And so you're going to have to decide, who is going to spend more time with the child, or if you folks are going to spend an equal amount of time with the child. And when one party has more time with the child than the other, that's called sole physical custody, which really is a misnomer because neither parent has sole physical custody of the child. It just means that one spends more time with the other. And there could be a lot of reasons for this. Maybe one parent works 70 hours a week, or one parent travels a lot, or the child has special needs and one of the parents isn't, that great at handling the special needs. Then the other parenting time is joint physical custody. And that's when you guys have about equal parenting time, and you could do every other day. Monday, Tuesday, one parent, Wednesday, Thursday, another parent. You could get even more creative based on your work schedule and other parts of your life. What we want to keep in mind is that we need to put the best interests of the children first. And we need to, make sure that, whatever parent is going to have the child that day is going to be able to pick up the child from childcare on time. And, do the things with the child that the child needs. And also, if the child is not feeling well, it's going to be able to pick up the child from school on his or her parenting time day. And so and also know that your parenting time schedule can be flexible, meaning this is what you guys have now, but, maybe in a couple years, you could have a different parenting time schedule when the kids get older or when whatever happens. So it's not forever. And so then you guys are going to talk about child support. And there is a government calculator for that. And you can just Google Minnesota child support calculator and it'll pop up. You do probably need some professional help to determine what to put in all the different boxes. It's not necessarily, you're not necessarily going to figure out what to put in there, but that's why you have a free initial consultation with me. And so you can go with the child support calculator, or you folks can reach an agreement on an amount that is lower or higher than that. And, and we can talk about, when each might be, good to do. So child support, there are three different types. There's the basic child support, which is for food, clothing, shelter. And then there's the medical child support, which is for paying for the premiums and deductibles and whatnot for the child. And then there's the child care child support, which is obviously for childcare. And your child support order can be flexible too, because you could say, until the child is this age, the child support is this amount. Or you could also say, which I suggest people do, is that they reevaluate the child support amount every year, because people's incomes change and the number of children change. So you could have somebody, earning very little and there are 3 children involved. And then 2 years later, the spouse that's earning very little is earning more and there are only 2 minor children involved. So it's good to just have that flexibility and to agree ahead of time that you are going to reevaluate the child support every year, either by yourselves or with the help of a mediator. And then, when we have the child support and where the children are going to be figured out, then we can move on to the money, the second most contentious part. And so we are going to divide the assets, and we are not going to, divide each asset necessarily, but we were going to put the assets together as a whole. And we are going to, basically like a business, folks, we are going to take all your assets and we're going to say, okay, who owns it? And we're going to put it in that person's column. And then the rule of law in Minnesota is that each party walks away with about half of the total assets. And so then we are going to try to make those assets as equal as possible. Now, there are reasons to not make the assets equal. And the reasons would be if there is someone who is in need of spousal maintenance and the other party either cannot afford to or does not want to pay the spousal maintenance each month, then that person could give the party in need a lump sum spousal maintenance amount, and by giving more of the marital assets. And there is an argument that even if that party is receiving spousal maintenance, that they should be entitled to more than half of the assets. Another reason perhaps that the division of assets should be with one person getting more than the other is in lieu of child support. So there are some reasons to deviate on that 50-50. And so that is, and one thing that you need to keep in mind when you are dividing the assets is that all assets are equal, but actually Cathy's going to talk about that. So I'll leave that to her. And let's see. So we're talking about dividing the assets. Oh, and so we are only dividing marital assets. So what that means, a marital asset is an asset that you folks accrued or received during the marriage. So and didn't receive from other people. So like received meaning like if you folks bought, actually bought would be the better term, bought things that you purchased, like if you purchased a car, you purchased a home, you purchased the stuff that's in your house, that would be a marital asset. And then accrued, so if you have financial accounts, investment accounts, retirement accounts, bank accounts, so the money that you accrued in those accounts is a marital asset. Now, money in those same accounts that was accrued before the marriage, that is a non-marital asset, and we do not divide that during divorce. So you will walk away with everything that you came into the marriage with. And also if people gave you gifts, like if your mom, gave you a $2,000 ring, or if your dad gave you a, $250,000 IRA, you are going to walk away with all of that and it will not be divided. So that's a difference between marital and non-marital assets. And then the last part of divorce is the division of the debts. And sometimes that can be the most painful because it doesn't matter who created the debt. What a lot of folks don't understand is that when you are married, you are legally and financially one person. So if party A created $50,000 of student loan debt, party B is still on the hook for that student loan debt, or any kind of debt, credit card debt, car loan debt, whatever it is. It could also be tax debt. So if you or your spouse didn't pay taxes for some reason at some point, let's just say in 2018, your spouse had a business and he didn't pay taxes on that business. And so you folks now owe $50,000 to the IRS and the Minnesota Department of Revenue. Well, you also owe that $50,000. And so that is something that we're going to have to negotiate during mediation, decide who is going to take that debt and how much, along with all the other regular debts, such as car loans, student loans, credit card debt. And so the division of marital debts is based on ability to pay. And what that means in regular people terms is just whoever earns more money pays more debts, because the person who earns more has a greater ability to pay. So if you guys have $100,000 of debts and one of you earns $50,000 a year and one of you earns $25,000 a year, then the person who earns the $50,000 a year is going to take twice as much of the debt load because that person earns twice as much. So that's just kind of a rundown of some of the basics about divorce law. There's a lot of other stuff, and a lot of things apply to certain people, but not others. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat box. And after Cathy talks about all the financial stuff, I can come back and answer some questions. But now please welcome Cathy Hietala to tell you folks about the finances of divorce.
There we go. Am I talking while I'm muted? Okay, thank you. It's a lot of good information there. Only live would I do this. Well, I believe it's important to start a financial plan before entering into the divorce. However, if you've already started the process, it's not too late. Honestly, it's really never too late to start a financial plan, but the sooner the better. Some of the things to think about before entering into the divorce, one of the major things is your home. Do you want to stay in your home, and can you afford to stay in your home? Often this means you'll need to refinance. It's not an option where your spouse can just take their name off the mortgage. It needs to be refinanced, and it's in their best interest to take their name off, one, because it's liability for them, and second, it's debt to them when they go to get a loan or another mortgage or on their credit score. So it's best to refinance that, and can you afford it, and do you qualify for that refinance? And if you're looking for alimony or child support to help you qualify, a lot of mortgage companies want to see 6 months of that payment coming in. And if there's a missed payment in there, a lot of times mortgage companies won't accept that as income. On the flip side, if that's something that you're paying the alimony or you're paying the child support, then that has to be included in your debt to income ratio when looking at qualifying for that mortgage. So those are things that we need to look at before you make that decision. Is that the best option for you? And another thing is the age of the children. If you're looking at child support, if that child is 17 and that child support is going to end at age 18 or 19, mortgage company may say, well, 2 years isn't enough to qualify for income on a 30-year mortgage. So there's different scenarios that will play into that. And and it may be you're going for custody of the kids and you're going for child support and alimony, but do you really know that that's what the court's going to decide? So that's where a financial plan comes in. We really wanted to look at doing both scenarios. Here's what your financial plan will look like if you get what you're going for. And here's what it looks like if the court decides you're not going to get that. So you're prepared for both situations. Because the last thing we want you to do is be hopeful for one and it lands here, and now you're looking back and saying, oh, I wish I would have known, or I wish I would have planned for that. We want to be proactive in our planning and have you set up for either scenario. A lot of times they will look at 2 years of income. So have you been working for the last 2 years? And have you been self-employed? A lot of people who are self-employed will take as many write-offs as they can to lower that tax and that self-employment tax, which can be good to pay in less taxes. But when you go to qualify for a loan, whether it's a car loan or a mortgage, that can affect you, and because it brings down your income. So it's showing a lower income, and that tells them that you can't pay that back. So in pre-planning, it may be best to not take those write-offs and claim more income in preparation for that future house or that future car. Those are some of the planning things that we need to look at as you're going through that divorce process. It may be that you want to downsize, sell your home, and take that profit from your home to buy a new home, maybe a smaller home, or maybe out of ways where you can get more home for your buck. And now for a few people, you may see a gain of more than $250,000 on your home. And if that's the case, you may have to pay tax on that gain, which will have to be split with your spouse, or may have to be split with your spouse, depending on how you work that out. So taxes are one thing to look at. And how are you going to file taxes as you're going through that process? If you're married filing separately and one of you wants to itemize deductions, well, the other one has to as well. You're going to have to split those deductions. You can't claim the same deductions. One can't take a standard and the other itemize. So you may want to seek out a professional CPA to run it both ways to find out what's the best way for you to file those taxes. So these are some financial things to look at as you go through. We also look at working a budget for you. What are your expenses going to be once you've separated? And what is your income, your guaranteed income, going to be? And what is that gap? Are your expenses more than what your income is coming in? How do we close that gap? What are some different things we can do to make sure you don't have a gap there? We put forth that plan to make sure that that major life change that you're going through can run smoothly and as securely as possible. Divorce is one of the top 5 reasons that people file bankruptcy. We don't want you to be one of those statistics. So we help you set up that budget in the different scenarios, planning for those what ifs, and making sure that, everything's going to be split equally. And we put it in a format that you can understand to make an educated decision that's right for you. And that's one of the many ways that we help you get started through the divorce process, so that you can have that, I did it moment. That's the best part of my job, is knowing that we can help you get in a position where you can be truly happy once again. And another important thing to look at is, a lot of times people will have what's called a quadro. That's where the court issues a document saying that you need to split a 401k or an IRA or some sort of qualified asset. And now, if you don't have that set up right, it can be financially detrimental. So you want to make sure that that is set up. And the best way to do that is to transfer from one financial institution straight to the other financial institution, and make sure that you set up that new qualified plan with the appropriate tax structure. And an advisor can help you through that process. Now I'll let Christie take over and tell you a little bit more about some of those important things.
All right. And so Cathy, can you tell us what happens when, say for instance, that a woman as part of the divorce agreement, she's going to receive $250,000 of the husband's 401k account. And so if she doesn't directly have that, to be transferred into another IRA account for herself, then what's going to happen?
So she will need to set up that IRA account with a financial institution, and an advisor can help her do that. And once that account is set up, then you do what's called a direct transfer. So your financial institution can help you get the correct paperwork. You just file paper to the financial institution that's transferring the money over. So once that paperwork is filed, the institution that's transferring the money over will tell you if they need any additional paperwork. And then that money is just sent directly to that company and it will show up in your account. And that way, because it's a direct transfer, there's no penalty if you're under 59 and a half, and there's no tax on that money because it was never in your hands. It went from one IRA to another IRA. You just have to make sure that the IRAs are the same type of IRA accounts from one institution to the other, and an advisor can help you with that.
And so when you're talking about the taxes on the penalty, like how much, what are we talking? How much money are we talking about here?
Depending on the type of IRA, if you're under 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty, plus you're going to be taxed on that money. So depending what your tax rate is, it could be 30, 40% of that money can be taken away. Now, if you're in a simple IRA and it's been less than 2 years that the holder of that simple has held that account, then you could be looking at a 30% plus taxed on that money. So then, if your tax rate is 20%, then you're looking at half of your money being gone if you don't do it correctly. So it's important that it's done correctly. And I recommend getting a financial advisor to help you through the process so you know it's done correctly.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. So that's one thing, like when you were dividing the marital assets, and I had people think that they're going to take, $500,000 of their spouse's IRA, and they're just going to cash that out. And then they're going to put that $500,000 down on a house, and, they're going to pay, just outright buy a house. It's like, no, you're not. Because you don't get all that money. At least you don't get it all right now. And so like that's a really important thing for people to realize.
It really is. And with mortgage rates so low right now, not in every scenario, but in a lot of scenarios, it may be more advantageous to take that mortgage at a 3% and have your money in the market and let it grow. So you play out different scenarios in a financial plan and see how they look and on paper and make the best educated decision for your situation.
Yeah, Cathy, can you just say like I think you had said that in a 10-year period that in the stock market, you're going to earn on average at least 10% on your money. Is that right?
6 to 10%, it depends which 10-year period you're looking at, of course. But as we look back in history, for a long time, we were looking at 6%, but that has grown because we've had such a phenomenal run in the markets in the past 10, 12 years. So that has increased. And lately, we've been looking at anywhere from 10, 15%, depending on what risk you're in. There's different portfolios depending on what life stage you're in. It will depend on really how much gain and you've had in the market. And those are different things that we'll talk about and we'll look at is what risk are you comfortable with and how much can you afford to take because you're going to could have that loss if the markets drop. So we look at inflation rates. Those what ifs. What if the market drops? Will you have enough income to continue paying those guaranteed expenses that you're going to have? and make sure that you always have enough.
Yeah, thanks very much. Because, that's just a great point, is it's okay to have a mortgage. Mortgage rates are really low. So you don't even have to think about, cashing out the plans. And so thank you for all of that information. And I'm sure that everybody's head is swimming, which is why I have a financial advisor. And so I don't see any questions in the chat box. So I guess there's no questions about divorce right now. But Cathy, can you talk about how post-divorce you help women create their new financial plan to move forward in life?
Yeah, after the divorce, once the divorce is final and you've settled into your new lifestyle, then we look at your future planning. Depending where you are in your life stage, whether it's raising children, empty nesting, or in retirement, we put a plan together that fits your lifestyle, your situation, and your future goals. And what are your goals? Are you looking at maybe paying for college for your kids or their schooling, weddings, travel? While possibly planning for those things at the same time, we need to be planning for your retirement at the same time. If you're in retirement, we look at how to make your plan better, making sure that your money will last you through those years with less taxation, and looking at passing your money on to your loved ones. And what does retirement look like for you? And how does inflation and the time value of money fit into your plan? That's a huge aspect that we need to look at. If we look at a 6% or a 3% rate of inflation over a 20-year period, the price of goods and services will have doubled. So if your income doesn't double, how will that affect your ability to pay for your utilities, your gas, a new car, your food, things like that? So we really need to add in that inflation and taxation. We look at that guaranteed income after taking account that inflation and taxation. Then what will your expenses be? And we look at those what if scenarios. What if you need long-term care? What if we have a high rate of inflation like we do right now? People didn't, who can plan for a pandemic? So we always want to plan like, well, what if? And then what if we have a market drop? How will that affect your investments? How can we protect your income if the market drops? So we do all that planning to make sure that not only are you going to live the life you want now, but you're going to be able to get through retirement the way that you want to.
That sounds good to me. And a few other things that you're going to want to do after the divorce. You're going to want to change beneficiaries on your financial accounts. You're going to want to change, especially life insurance. You're going to want to get a new estate plan. And Cathy and I both know estate planning attorneys who we can refer you to. It's really important to know who is going to make decisions about the end of your life and your finances. And so that's real important. And you're going to want to make sure that, just everything, all the little things like utilities are switched over to whoever is now going to be living in that home. And the final thing after the divorce that you guys are going to do is you're going to make sure that, each party gets the assets they're entitled to, whatever assets it is, equity from the home, money from the IRA account, money from bank accounts, whatever it is. And then whenever everybody has the money they're supposed to have, then if there's a house involved, then I'm going to rate up the quitclaim deed, and whoever is no longer going to own that home is going to sign the quitclaim deed, and we're going to get that home into only one person's name, and then it'll be done. divorcing really isn't that tough. It doesn't have to be that tough. However, you need help. You need help from people who, understand this process. And although I have never been through a divorce myself, I have helped a lot of people divorce. And Cathy, if you want to say something about your experience with divorce.
Yes, take me back. It was definitely a process. But yeah, I am divorced. I've been divorced since, oh shoot, I can't remember now, 2009, I think it was finalized, and started in 2007. And so it took a little over a year to go through the divorce process. And I've worked with a lot of people going through divorce as well. And it can be scary going into a divorce, especially if you're not working, or if you're not making as much as your spouse, or thinking that you're not going to have the same type of lifestyle. That's where it's important to sit down and lay out all those finances. What are the assets? What are the debts? How can those be split amicably? And make a plan before you're going in that's really going to help you get through it. And working with Christie, she's so good at that, at helping you separate those things so that both of you can be happy. Yeah, and she really works through the process with you. And staying out of the courts, to me, as much as you can, is huge, and she can help you stay out of that as much as the courts will allow you to stay out of it. Can't think of a better way to say that.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. I didn't really talk a lot about, how I do what I do. Silly me. I'm a parent, so I kind of focus on others, I guess. So the key thing with my services is I'm a mediator and a paralegal, and so I can work with both parties. And that means that the communication is like a triangle, between the three of us. And so there's going to be a lot fewer billable hours. And also, I don't advocate for anybody. So I'm not going to advocate for either of you to try to get everything that you want. So the goal of mediation is to find a middle ground, kind of like median in the highway median. And, both parties are going to be a little unhappy because nobody's getting everything they want. And so, this process is way quicker. Usually a divorce will take 9 months or more. And through my process, you guys should be able to handle it all within a couple of weeks. And then if you don't have kids, we mail off those documents to the court, and 2 to 4 weeks later, you are going to get a notice of dissolution in the mail. 2 to 4 weeks later. And if you have kids, the hearings are about 2 months out these days. It might be a little longer because of the holidays here at the end of the year. And sometimes judges are taking vacations, but right around 2 months after we mail the documents to the court, you will be divorced and have the notice of dissolution of marriage. So 2 weeks or 2 months is a heck of a lot quicker than 9 months or 2 years. When I used to work for attorneys, I worked on a case that was in year 3.5. So I'll save folks tens of thousands of dollars and at least 6 months in the court process. So if this sparks your interest, please email or call and we'll set up a free initial consultation with me. And our contact information is in the post. And Cathy, how can people contact you?
Again, that information is in the post, or you can look up the Terrio Group. We have a website, and give me a call or an email, and I'm happy to have a no-cost consultation with you and just answer any questions and see if it's the right fit for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Cathy. And I hope everybody in Minnesota has a great day. At least it is not snowing 16 inches today. That's a definite plus. Thank you.